So I'm going to assume this is messaging. So one of the things that I think is very interesting is that like a lot of times the non-RPC, which is usually messaging, is sort of like the next thing to do, because the RPC frameworks are easier to like strangle. And it's actually, so basically, if you think about messaging, it's really core to like all the fancy things, right? That's how lambdas get activated. Like that's how things get pushed into these streaming workflows. So messaging is basically the other in main service communication. And so I would say that in this case, the start is very similar to how RPC would work. So some consumer operation is acting on the message. The only thing that's different is that because the message is also data, it's not necessarily going to be processed. Usually we end up having to like push things into the message somehow, so that if it's later processed in a different queue or whatever else like that, it could be resumed. And that stuff is more dodgy, I would say, than these like handoffs that usually exist in RPC frameworks, which have ways to propagate more straightforward like. And the other thing that messaging traces can give you a new challenge is the length of the trace. It's very hard for a producer of a message to understand all of the knock-on effects of that. So for example, we've had folks in Zipkin asking us for like trace breaker functionality, like, and there's some hints of this model inside of Census, like the link structure, but how do you keep the flow going without something being like a million spans? Because a message could just be a clock tick, or it could be like this massive workflow, and because everything's decoupled by nature, it's one of the hardest parts of tracing.